This is a gaming PC made by Sega, of all people, called the ALLS-UX, which sounds kind of weird, but it's not nearly as weird as the fact that it's for sale today for use in arcade games. It's got a 6th gen Core i5 processor, a GTX 1070, 16 gigs of RAM, and it runs on Windows 10 IoT Enterprise. For the $250 we paid for it, it's actually a pretty decent little machine.
At least it would be if it weren't locked down with BitLocker encryption, a BIOS password, and always online DRM. In order to boot into the installed OS, we need a USB key chip that's forever owned by Sega, a router with Sega's VPN pre-installed, and an IP address that's whitelisted on Sega's servers, none of which you are likely to get if you're not in Asia and on very good terms with their arcade sales division. Sega's, not Asia's. But why are things so locked down?
Because money. That USB key chip doesn't just act as a key to boot up Windows. It collects sales data about the machine even when it's offline and sends it back to Sega so that they can ensure that they're getting their cut of the coins dropped into the machine.
But aside from a few exceptions in large chain arcades, none of these games ever make it to Western countries legally. So how is it that you can find game machines like Initial D, Taiko Drum Master, or Blaze Blue running perfectly in nearly every major city?
Turns out, there's a clandestine network of hackers, enthusiasts, and preservationists that are working not only to make these games available in their regions, but to offer network support and updates while giving life to features and games well after they're retired by their creators. Truly God's work.
But how do these underground networks come to be in the first place? What would happen if they were to suddenly shut down? And can we still play games on this machine right here? Or is our only remaining form of entertainment segues to sponsors like Seasonic? If you're in the need of a power supply, look no further. Seasonic offers high quality power supplies with a variety of options for any build. Learn more at seasonic.com. It's pretty normal inside the computer, except this is a robust case. If you can imagine someone getting angry at the game and hitting the side of the arcade cabinet, you don't want that to cause a shutdown for your business. So I guess all the steel makes sense.
Other weird thing is these serial cables coming off the back, which are just snipped off on ours. We think this one would govern things like the coin operation of the arcade cabinet, and then these would work the lights.
There was once a time when each arcade machine would be purpose-built, but for the last 30 years or so, they've been largely shells with familiar hardware. For example, Mario Kart GP runs on the Triforce, a GameCube modified for arcades. The new Street Fighter 6 runs on the Taito Type X4, a PC with a 4th gen i5 and a GTX 960. And games like Crazy Taxi were released for the Chihiro, a slightly modified Xbox with its DVD drive swapped out for a GD-ROM, like some kind of Microsoft Dreamcast abomination. The way the software works is familiar too. The name ALS stands for Amusement Linkage Live System. And as implied, it's meant to be connected to a network at all times, so it can not only be monitored and updated, but also so that new games can be added to it, kinda like Steam. In a similar manner, players that use their Sega iMe identifier card will have things like high scores and game progress saved on Sega's servers, so it can be used on any other machine at any other arcade. They can also store credits purchased with cash right on the machine. But in exchange for access to this system, Sega requires that arcade operators not only buy the machines outright and maintain them themselves, but also split all revenues 50-50 with Sega. They aren't the only ones either. It's a similar situation with the other majors that make up this oligopoly. Bandai Namco's Bana Passport, Taito's Nisus, and the OG arcade network of the bunch, Konami's E-Amusement. So what are small arcades to do? Assuming they're not owned by one of those major companies, which also is a thing. Well, they could install a fresh version of Windows onto the box and run an emulator. TechnoParrot is an emulator capable of running newer arcade games on a wide breadth of hardware, including the very systems they were designed for.
But like most emulators, ROMs are not provided, and it can take some time to figure out the optimal configurations for each game. They also lack a lot of the online features, like events and updates, though LAN and NetPlay is supported by titles.
The other option these companies have is private servers. If you've played World of Warcraft at Any point, you're probably familiar with the idea of private servers, and this scenario shares a lot of similarities. These work essentially as drop-in replacements of the official servers, just without the officialness. Server operators often tweak the features they offer to differentiate themselves from the vanilla experience, usually unlocking far more than the official release.
Unlike WoW private servers, however, these require hardware to get through the client encryption, those key chips that we mentioned earlier. We've unfortunately been unable to acquire any photos, but through talking with some arcade owners, we found out that the existing underground networks use some kind of hardware that's plugged into USB, likely an FPGA or something like a modified SafeNet iKey, in order to spoof the key chip and get everything decrypted.
Judging by Bringa Studios' video on the alls, it seems that many systems share key chips. Obviously not the greatest security practice, but getting past the key chip is only a small portion of the journey. For the private servers to act as one-to-one drop-in replacements for the real thing, their outputs have to match the outputs expected from the official servers. And doing this is a bit of a black art involving scraping server data, reverse engineering, or sometimes the assistance of leakers. But even after one private server pulls it off, they aren't likely to share their code publicly, which means that if an existing network gets shut down, it could be game over for good. If that happened to the private networks underpinning Western all systems, arcades would lose dozens of games, their online play, save states, DLC, and network-wide leaderboards. It would be catastrophic. Businesses would close. And that's true of bootlegs of any of the big four networks. And that's to say nothing of the threat to game preservation these closed ecosystems pose. Look at the Satellaview, an add-on for the Super Famicom released back in 1995. I was alive. It distributed unique game levels and events to those subscribed to the service, but only within a limited release window, typically a couple of weeks, never to be played again. In 2023, some of these releases have been recovered, but many more are known to be lost, and an unknown number have been forgotten completely.
And that's a major reason why many believe that piracy of these systems is justifiable. If you bought the hardware and you bought the game, you should be allowed to play it, they say.
Well, we bought this hardware. We bought Puyo Champions on Steam. We have Techno Parrot with a copy of the arcade release of the game. Sure, we're lacking the case lights and the coin-op controllers that would normally plug into the serial ports on the back, but those are incidental. Let's game. Interesting thing about this machine, there's no on button, so as soon as you switch on the power supply, it's just on. We're running off a different SSD now because encryption, but here's a game, Puyo, with my Razer gamepad. Oh gosh. Oh my God, I don't speak Japanese.
A, which is no, the other one is I, yes.
What is it asking me?
Don't know.
Okay, who should I be? The least human one, the fish. Yes, I relate to that one. Yes? Yes! This is like Bizarro Land Tetris. I'd rather have a D-pad than a joystick. That's probably sacrilege to some people. Oh no, this guy's just dropping a graveyard on me here. We do have other games, but we don't want to risk playing them because we don't want to attract the ire of Sega's lawyers, and it just seems like Sega doesn't care about this game as much, so that's why we went for it. Oh, a giant blob, it's crazy. Crazy like the deals offered by today's sponsor!
Brilliant! Brilliant is the hands-on and interactive way to learn STEM topics. With thousands of different lessons, they make it fun for both students and professionals to beef up their knowledge. You can learn at your own pace and build out a lesson plan that fits your needs. Even if you lead a busy life, you can start learning useful skills in as little as 15 minutes a day. Check out their Thinking in Code course, a solid foundation for computational problem solving that helps you start developing your own programs with practical life uses. I mean, how can you troubleshoot a problem without knowing the basics? So don't wait. Get started for free right now for 30 days and get 20% off an annual plan by visiting brilliant.org/LinusTechTips or clicking the link down below.
If you like this video, check out the time that we DIY'd a whole arcade cabinet a long, long time ago. Back when I was happy.